I've had it with WWE. I used to watch them in the days of WWF in the early days of WWE. And then I found out, which I was ignorant, I found out that WWE was all staged, well, pretty much all staged and fake. And I really didn't like that because I was looking for authenticity. So, I started watching MMA and I watch UFC, and that's good. And, I got bored with that because it really bloody and violent, which I liked. However, I just, then some things started popping up about the right wing orientation of some of the principles at UFC. So I abandoned them. Okay, so a few years back, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, a good friend of mine and I started doing a podcast called Two Stone Dudes. And this friend in particular is another friend who's still a friend, who's still around, who's a good guy. This friend and I, we talked a lot about wrestling because he was a former professional wrestler who was looking to get back in the game. And I started watching wrestling again, and I started watching WWE and I started watching AEW, and he was a WWE hater, and I didn't understand why until watching WWE for quite a while. Now AEW for me is superior wrestling and entertainment. It's far superior. Uh, and WWE is full of all these promos and all this entertainment crap that I really don't like because most of it is lowbrow. Most of it is for 12-year-olds. It's not for an adult audience, and that's why AEW, for the most part, has dispensed with that kind of nonsense. They're putting on wrestling, professional wrestling. Yes, a lot of it is staged, and I think the wrestlers, along with Tony Khan, work out a lot of the outcomes and what's going to happen in the matches. However, the matches are more violent and more brutal, okay, and they exemplify what is penned as professional wrestling, okay. Now, recently, WWE had their WrestleMania. It was a great show. Don't get me wrong. I very much enjoyed the matches. I don't like the promos. I did like The Rock and Cody and Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins. That big promo that went on for a number of weeks. That was one of the very few good ones they've had, and the matches, by and large, especially night two, were the best I've seen on WWE in years. They were fabulous, and of course, people are saying, "Hey, this is the greatest WrestleMania of all time." Well, whatever. I really don't like it when people say shit like that, using the term "the greatest" or "the best ever" or "who's the greatest." Like let's take it in music, for example. In music, it's a big well, who's the greatest guitar player? Then they start saying, "Well, who's the best 10?" Come on, come on. Music is about taste, okay, and so is entertainment. And WWE without the promos is entertaining to me. It's not as good as what I see, even in Impact or TNA as it's called, or AEW or New Japan, especially. No, not nearly as good. Okay, the wrestling to me is second rate for the most part. The Cody match was great wrestling. Okay, the Sami Zayn match with Gunther, that was exemplary. That was a great match. Although if it was straight on head up, he's not going to beat Gunther. Let's get that right, okay? Anyway, enough criticism about that. I'm going to go back to this whole thing with AEW and WWE shooting on each other. And really, it should be called shitting on each other because that's what they're doing. And I do agree with some of the comments about this. I agree, okay, that this whole Punk Jack Perry thing probably shouldn't have been aired. I mean, but it was aired. It's over, okay, and now it's time to move on. Like Adam Copeland said in his promo, it's time to move on. And then you've got WWE. Now here are a few comments about WWE and why, except for the wrestling matches, I hate them. Okay, I really do. I hate WWE. And they're very popular. They're mainstream, TV popular, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? The NBA is mainstream popular. I don't like the NBA either. It's not entertaining to me. You know, I don't like it. I don't like baseball. Baseball is really boring. Okay. So, and I don't even want to put WWE in the category of sports, which is where they're trying to move now, because they were sports entertainment, and that's really what they still are. Now they're trying to become pro wrestling. They're not. Unless you get rid of all these useless run-on promos, they're not going to be that. Now, here's the main thing. WWE over the years has shown how morally corrupt they have been. You know, we can go all the way back to Vince and the steroid scandal. We can go back to a lot of the shit that's happened, in the locker room, which pales in comparison to the Punk crap. Okay, you can, and the reason why do wrestlers latch on to WWE? It's the money, man, and also the benefits. They're getting benefits now. They never used to get those benefits, by the way, but they are getting grounded. They're getting grind. They're getting and Triple H defended that in a shot that he took at AEW and Will Ospreay on the QT. Okay, so Will Ospreay fires back, and he was right. Sorry, guys, Will Ospreay's right. And putting down a company because it rests its wrestlers from week to week, and that's right. You should. That's why there's so many injuries. Now, even so, both companies get a lot of injuries. AEW gets a lot of injuries because of the violence, because there's a lot of the violence that goes over the top. Okay, so that's what happens. That is what happens. Okay, now back to WWE and why they're morally corrupt. Number one, they have shows in Saudi Arabia. They made deals with the Saudis. Come on! The Saudis, the government of Saudi Arabia, is one of the greatest human rights violators in the world. Women were speaking up and getting their heads cut off. Come on! Come on! Khashoggi was dismembered by a Saudi team at the orders of who's that? Mohammed bin Salman. Yeah, that son of a bitch. Yeah, he was dismembered by them. Now, come on, you should. At that point, WWE should have ended all their Saudi Arabia entanglements, but they didn't because of the whole thing, which is the money. Now, I'm going to say this. Here's a comparison. Okay, but it's on one of the few valid ones that are made. WWE is all about the money. AEW is less about the money than WWE. WWE, also, Vince, for years, had that orange puss bag scumbag from Mar-a-Lago on the show a few times, even their little match and all that BS they did. Well, if Trump would have stayed in that mode, that would have been better. But then he had to become the president of the United States, which was one of the biggest political mistakes in American history. Okay, so there's number two. Number one, doing business with the Saudis. Number two, having Trump on the show. Okay. Number three, now there's all these allegations of the moral corruption, especially of Vince, okay, who was a totally moral, corrupt piece of shit individual, okay, who should have all his money taken away from him and distributed to retired wrestlers who are dying and suffering a lot of health problems because of their wrestling careers. Yeah, that's what should be done. And the rest of it, in my opinion, should go in a vast retirement fund for all these folks, for all professional wrestlers. But that's not going to happen because he's just a greedy, ugly, disgusting example of what a human being should not act like. Okay? So that's number three. Yeah, and now all this crap is coming out about the sexual stuff and everything else. And I'll tell you what, I admire Ronda Rousey for coming out and saying what a shit show WWE is. WWE is a shit show. It is a lot of problems there. Okay, so Nick Khan and Triple H or Paul Levesque, they're trying to clean it up, and they have been cleaning it up. And okay, so it's probably better than it was. But it's still the same operation in a lot of sense. It's still a bunch of promo. Actually, in my opinion, NXT is better than WWE because there's less promo. Well, it's getting worse now because there's getting more. There's less promo and there's more wrestling. There's a lot more matches on a 2-hour NXT show than there is on a 2-hour SmackDown or a 3-hour, especially a 3-hour Raw. Oh my God. I mean, what was there the other night on Raw? 6, maybe 8, 6 matches in 3 hours, something like that? Come on, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. It's just like the night one, well, both nights of WrestleMania. What was 6, 7 matches a night at the most? And a bunch of promo crap running. I mean, I have the no commercial version. Yeah, quote, no commercial, unquote version of Peacock. Well, what happens? They run promos for the matches coming up when they would normally have commercials. So it's not really commercial free. It's BS. Okay? This is why I like watching the old shows. Like I was watching a bunch of ECW from the second generation. And I watched a lot of WCW. I'm going to go back and start watching it. There's not much promo. Very little promo. A lot of wrestling. Really good stuff. And a lot of matches in 1 hour or hour and a half. So, WWE, in my opinion, I mean, I like the wrestling, so I'm not going to completely abandon watching them. But what I do now is I watch a little bit of the promo. If I can tell it's a bunch of crap, I skip through it because I record all this stuff. So I want to skip through the crap. I don't like watching commercials. I don't like promos that are stupid. Okay, so and I can tell within just a few seconds if a promo is really stupid or useless. Okay. Now, some of the backstage stuff that they do, you know, in both promotions is really good because, you know, they have these confrontations and they have the violence, and I like that, okay? But I don't like these big, long BS sessions that they have and all this crap that take, like having The Rock and Cody on for 45 minutes of a Raw, commercial free or not, doesn't matter. It was a waste of about at least 40 minutes. All that could have been done in 10 minutes very well. It wasn't. Okay, so black marks on WWE. On 10 scale, there are 5. And that's because of the promos. And that's because of this episodic promotional BS. And they're not a professional wrestling company. And I have serious doubt that they're going to move towards that. Now, going over to WWE in the cross comparison, the cross criticism, which is only valid on certain points. You know, AEW should have, I don't know, this whole Punk thing. If you want to expose the Punk thing, let me expose the Punk thing. Okay, so Punk joins AEW. Vince was still at WWE. Okay. He really wasn't welcome at WWE at that time. You know, he probably, it's unspoken, but I would say there's a good probability that Punk approached WWE before AEW and tried to come back, and Vince was there, and Vince said, oh, no way, not after what you did. Okay, which actually what he did to leave was great. It was great. Unfortunately, he abandoned that stuff for the money, and he said so. Okay, so he goes to AEW. Actually, he had a great run there. He did some great matches. I became a fan. I was neither a fan or not a fan before. I became a fan. The stuff with MJF and with Hangman, that was all great. That was great matches. Great. I think even, I don't know if, he didn't wrestle Danielson. But anyway, but his Achilles heel got exposed, and it's almost literal. He got his foot broken. He got his triceps torn. So he got injured twice within the span of 2 years. That's a little bit much, which tells me, okay, so he doesn't do roids. Well, okay, more power to him. But he should have been doing something. He should have been doing something to prevent injuries. And he didn't, or he wouldn't have got injured. Okay? So he got injured twice. So he was out a lot. Okay? So, so what happens? Vince is gone. Okay? So Punk approaches WWE because here's the deal. It's very apparent now. He wanted to go back to WWE. He really didn't want to be in another promotion. He wanted to be at WWE. And he said, well, I'll do this for a while. If it doesn't work out, I'll see if I can get back to WWE. And, of course, he approached him, and they had him back, which I think, you know, it's just more scumbag chicanery in business. It's just, there's no cooperation, there's no unity between all these promotions, with the exception, there's a little bit of unity on WWE's end with a couple other promotions. There's a lot of unity on AEW's end, because AEW doesn't have that policy. Like, okay, so now WED is saying, oh yeah, we're going to open up and we're going to start doing cross-promotional stuff. Well, it's never going to happen with AEW, which is where it should happen. And that's unfortunate that AEW has shot on WWE as much as they have. They don't have to kiss ass. They don't have to be a suck up, but they could have just, like a lot of people are saying now. And here's another thing. There's too much BS about all this on the internet right now. All these damn podcasters with their wrestling show. Come on, you guys. You guys are blowing it. You're blowing it worse than AEW did with that promo of the Bucks with the footage. You're blowing it a lot more. Now, I don't think the footage was that bad, but I do agree on one point a lot of these guys are making. It ought to have been on the internet. It should have been on YouTube. It should not have been on TV, because people watch these shows, they don't really care. Now, I will say this. AEW has many more percentage of diehard fans than WWE. The people that are watching WWE are people that are entertainment people. They like entertainment. They want to watch entertainment, but they like mainstream. And so the PG WWE is right up their alley. Well, I don't like PG WWE. I like PG-13 or RAW. That's what I like. I don't like WWE's PG crap. I like the blood. I like the violence. I think it's great. But it's just not really there on WWE, except maybe on the backstage. I mean, there's more violence backstage than in the ring. Anyway, so back to AEW. This is kind of sad because a lot of fans and some of the wrestlers over there have reacted negatively. They're blowing back on this whole thing. Now, the smart people aren't saying anything, and that's the way it should go. And I can say something because I'm a fan, okay? And I'm a longtime fan. I've been watching wrestling. Matter of fact, my father, I'm 71 years old. My father took me to my first wrestling match when I was 5. I went to, Phoenix had its own Madison Square Garden, and we used to have what was the professional wrestling in those days. And he took me to a show where it was midget wrestling and it was women wrestling. Okay, it was really kind of scared me at that age because one of the midget wrestlers got thrown right next to me. And there's this sweaty, hairy guy getting thrown right next to me that I didn't expect. But actually, it was kind of cool because it introduced me. Then I got taken to another show when I was about 6, I think, at the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, where I saw guys like Haystack Calhoun and Edouard Carpentier and those kind of guys. That was great. Okay, so I've been a wrestling fan for a number of years. I got disgruntled with WWE/WWF because of the fakery, and I didn't accept that as being entertainment value at the time. I was looking for something more authentic. And then I came back with my friend, and my friend, he hated WWE. My friend, the former wrestler. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us. He had an overdose and he died. It was really sad. He was a good guy. He meant well, but he knew wrestling, and he knew wrestling way better than I did, and he didn't like WWE, along with a lot of other professional wrestlers who don't like that promotion, okay? The people who are there, I would say that probably 50-60% of them are there for the money. They're there because they want the money. Okay, that's it. And that's what WWE is all about. It's all about the money. Okay? And they're corrupt. They're morally corrupt. They still are. They're having another show in Saudi Arabia. If those guys had any brains, they'd come out and say, hey, Saudi Arabia is a human rights violator. They don't belong on our venues. That's what they would do. But they're not going to do it.